Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about the life and the challenges of being a forerunner, or what some of you call a trailblazer. It's the one that goes before a thing in order to establish that thing. Pioneers, those who go into uncharted territory. In some cases, they call them trendsetters, but the concept remains the same. Before I get into that, I want to remind y'all about my book, Fullness Guide to Sonship and Mysticism, available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or you can get the ebook directly from my website. This is a go-to guide. This is everything that you need for your sonship journey. Now, getting back to the topic of today, right? I'm someone, and I recognize my calling, right? I have recognized my calling, and that's one of the most important things you can do is know what you're called to do and what part you're meant to play in this whole thing we have going on. And I understand that I am a forerunner. I am a trailblazer. I'm someone that's preparing something that's not here yet. In a biblical paradigm, you think of people like Noah, who worked on something for years before the idea of it ever being useful came into play. Being ahead of your time will oftentimes get you mistreated by your current time. It's a common phrase that I hear where they say that the number one enemy of the current move of God, or the new move of God, is the last move of God. Not because they're led by different gods, but because people typically have an attachment to their familiarity, which makes by default the unfamiliar their enemy. So one of the lessons that I had to learn, and I try to say this as non-Baptist as possible, that I actually don't plan on being on long. One of the things that I had to learn is not to take it personal when receiving rejection or receiving mistreatment. That it's not a person doing something to me. It's not a person doing something to you specifically. It's a reaction. And most of the time it's unconscious. They're not necessarily responding to you as a person. They're responding to archetypes that they have about you, things that you represent. When dealing with fear and the fear of man, or what people are really afraid of, what drives a person, well, the number one fear is the fear of the unknown. Most people aren't afraid of a thing that they can understand. They're afraid of what they don't. And that places you as a forerunner right in the middle of that. Typically, right, even people who want to support you have to first understand what it is that you're doing, or what it is that you're called to be doing, in order for them to stand by your side. And if they can't understand your mission because your mission is so far out of their framework, it's too far outside of the box, then even well-meaning people will find themselves in a category of abusive, or let's not say abusive, let's say neglectful, right? One of the harsh things that you come to realize is that you can't really decide who supports you when you're out doing what you're called to do. And you'll make it a bit easier on your heart if you free people to accept you or reject you as they please, right? Because most of the time, and you hear this when people talk about their comment section, or they talk about conversations that they have all day long, right? They'll say, you can hear 30 positive words, 50 compliments, but the thing that'll stick in your mind is the one negative comment, the one insult. That'll mess up the whole day. Why is it that we're wired that way? It's almost as if the remnant is what sticks out to us. Right? In that same vein, it's that we'll ignore, right, all of the people that do support us just because the 5 people that we want to support us aren't. The people that we want to be embraced by aren't embracing us. Therefore, the embrace of the hundreds and the thousands don't mean anything. And that's a prison of the self. you as a forerunner are keeping yourself trapped in that capacity. So I've had to learn that, right? Because this idea of reaping and sowing, doing unto others as you would have them do to you, treat people the way you want to be treated. I've lived that way my whole life. I've gotten in trouble for being a goody two shoes my whole life, right? So I somehow ended up in the assumption, and yes, I'm fine with being considered naive, but I somehow ended up in the assumption that if you treat people right, those same people will treat you right. And that's not really how this works, right? When you're reaping what you've sown, you typically don't reap it from the area that you sowed it. And that's something I had to figure out, is that while I was sowing positive character and stability and reliability and all these other areas, I was expecting it to be reciprocated by the people I was pouring into, not realizing that it was the world itself that was receiving my harvest and the world itself that was giving it back. When you sow, you're not sowing into the individual. When you serve, when you work, you're not doing that to the individual. That's to creation itself. Therefore, creation itself gives you back your harvest. And as I started to look at that and really take consideration of that, it's like, okay, I'm not supposed to expect this back from the exact place that I did these acts, right? This comes from a different spot. So, right, I'm being nice to people that I'm not expecting to be nice to me anymore. I'm being there for people that I know will never, ever, ever be there for me. I'm supporting people who don't support me now, nor do I expect them to support me anytime soon, right? I'm speaking life into people. I'm healing people. I'm prophesying to people that I know will never be able to do anything to me specifically. And that was freeing, because expectation kills us. Bad expectations, believing that something is supposed to play out a certain way and then it doesn't, crushes us. Truthfully, that's the creator in us. And that, for real, it crushes us. It hurts. When you wanted something to play out a certain way, you had hope in your eyes, you had good intentions, and it turned sour. That hurts. Even the more you grow in maturity, either it hurts and you get used to it and you mature by it, or you go numb and now you stop expecting good things. A lot of people went numb, but I'm talking to us as forerunners. A lot of forerunners gave up on their callings just because they couldn't get the applause from the few people that meant anything to them. Right? For some people, it's their parents. For some people, it's a friend. For some people, it's a former leader. Whoever it is, take them off the pedestal in your heart. Take them off of the altar, so that way the real you can finally stand up. So that's a major key that I had to learn, is that I can't expect or dictate where my support comes from. What I can do is stay consistent. I can stay resolved. And again, this is a message for forerunners. Everyone isn't one. No matter how much it gets preached to you, you can't even make yourself a forerunner. It doesn't work that way. A forerunner is someone who's received a blueprint before that manifestation ever makes its way into temporality. Whether that be in any industry, right? Inventors are forerunners. They see the possibility of a future with less stress. Therefore, they bring something into the present that can adjust it. And most forerunners in any field are not embraced until after they die. Until after their work is done, until after they're fully established, most of them do not have any success or any support in the startup. You wonder why you feel neglected. You wonder why you feel abandoned. It's because you're supposed to be building something and the world around you doesn't know what it is. Can two walk together unless they agree? If no one knows what you're doing, no one can agree with you on it. Don't take it personal that you're not getting support. You're not supposed to yet. As a forerunner, you play by different rules. You have a different standard. You have different protocols, right? You're the one that goes first. Everyone else gets to come after. You know, this was something frustrating to me. throughout my life, especially once I started ministering, I got labeled unteachable by a few people. And it was because I didn't want to receive what they were trying to give me, because me being aware of my calling, know that what they're giving, as genuine as they are and well-meaning as they are, has nothing to do with me, and that'll contaminate my destiny if I try to incorporate something that does not fit just to keep appearance. I'd rather you think I'm unteachable than incorporate something that does not fit with me. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't work. Right? If it doesn't belong, it just doesn't belong. Right? So what people don't realize is that a struggle of my existence for the last decade, I've been in ministry about a decade. For a decade straight, I've had frustration on the fact that I don't have a mentor. And yes, I've had mentors in a certain capacity, but not to the extent that I want. Something I've always wanted is someone that I could just sit under and learn, and they could help me get up to speed. They could recognize where I'm at in my journey and show me how to get where I'm trying to go. I've always wanted that. I've never had that. I've had good leaders, right? I've had good people around me. The one mentor I did have, Apostle Napoleon Williams, when me and him connected, he was more so an affirmation of my struggle and that time frame, because I was moving in things and I was accessing realms that was unfamiliar. That's that Forerunner stuff. He didn't teach me how to access any realms. He didn't teach me how to move in power. He didn't teach me how to work on my character. He discerned that I didn't need help with that stuff and kind of stayed out of my way. That's what my former pastor did. He recognized that I was on the right track and didn't try to derail me. It's cool in hindsight to say that they had more belief in me than I had in myself, but on a standard of just talking about what I've always wanted a mentor who could pour into me the same way that I pour into other people. So one day, rather recent, to be transparent, I'm having a conversation with Yeshua, and I'm like, how come I don't get a mentor? I'm like, this person gets a mentor, they get a mentor, they, all these other people get mentors. How come I don't get one on this level, right? I'm like, how come I don't get one? And he says, there isn't anyone around you that's called to do what you're called to do. So where are they going to lead you? Where are they going to take you? Where are they going to show you? What blueprint are they going to I can't help you get somewhere if I've never been there. And that's pretty much the reality he was punching me in the face with, is if they've never been where you've left, let alone where you're going, if they've never been where you've left, how can they bring you anywhere? And I'm like, dang, you mean nobody, right? Because truthfully, the desire of my heart was always to have a mentor, someone I could just sit under, learn from, get codes, and be like, hey, I learned everything from this person. Hasn't happened, right? And truth be told, my eyes have always been open. My ears stay open. I'm like, when I see people think I'm sizing them up. I'm looking to see if there's something I can learn from you, and that's from everybody. I'm somebody that learns from everybody. I see value in everybody. So I might not learn from you what you think you want me to learn from you, but I learn from just about everybody. That's how hungry I am for education and truth, is that I don't have a standard when it comes to the package. I'm looking at the value of truth itself. But that was something I had to come to terms with. Hey, Forerunners, guess what? 9 times out of 10, you don't get a mentor. You get advisors. You get affirmers. People who can see well enough that you're on track to do something right, and they'll encourage you to keep going. They won't stand alongside you. Because again, if you don't know what it is, you don't support it 100%, which means you have to watch your heart and you have to watch your perception when you watch them support other people. Because it looks like favoritism. It looks like, well, you're standing there, you're with them, you're helping them, but you're not helping me. It's because they can help them. They can't help you. It's a difference of capacity. You have to recognize that as a forerunner. Otherwise, offense will get in the way, and you'll do your calling with an attitude, which means you won't do it well. You won't do it from the proper consciousness or the proper posture. It's not going to happen. So this is something you have to get into your head, right? Some people aren't forerunners as much as they want to be. Guess what? If you had someone go before you and you're following behind them, you're not a forerunner. You might be one of the first people to walk the path, but you're not the one that's actually blazing it. That's okay. That's okay. I'm grateful for the people who are willing to walk behind, because those are the people that usually build the foundation and the structure of the thing after the trail has been blazed. Those people are necessary, but understand their purpose is different. Their path is different. Forerunners typically very alone, not in community, but in destiny. What you're called to do doesn't match what other people are doing, and you got to be okay with that. It'll always feel like no one understands me, and that's not a feeling, that's a reality. They don't. Even if they try to, even if they want to, they don't, because it's not their blueprint, it's not their record. So you've got to watch your heart. It took me, and like I said, life has had to teach me stuff early, because again, I don't have a mentor. I didn't have someone who was going through what I was going through and they could say, oh, I went through that already, this is what's going on. I didn't have that. I just had to lean on the spirit, learn and grow as I grew, which happened to be fast. So even a lot of the rejection I received wasn't necessarily because I was doing something wrong. It's that even the rate of my success was unfamiliar. I can laugh about it now, but at the time it was highly frustrating. There was this woman at my old church, and I was fascinated by her, right? Because she was in her 70s, late 70s, 80s or so, right? She moved in a ton of power and the prophetic, right? And like I said, I grew up Baptist, so that wasn't common. And I was fascinated by her, right? That lady hated my guts because I was a teenager that was moving in a fraction of what it took her decades to walk in. Do you realize how disrespectful your success comes across when you're dealing with people who fought hard to get it? Here I am, full of zeal and excitement, letting it slip that I'm experiencing the same stuff that this missionary who traveled the world, seeing people healed, the dead raised, and all types of stuff. Took her decades to see some level of success, and here I am getting it in a year as a teenager. Yeah, that registers as disrespectful, and at some cases, it registers as delusional. Oh, I've never seen somebody get so angry while being understood because the wrong person understood them. Right? So this lady used to be mean to me, and the whole time I'm like, I don't want to be mean back because I actually want to receive from I'm over here wanting an impartation. Even through the character flaws, I'm like, I want this lady to pray for me, lay hands on me, because I recognize what she carries is powerful. She has a magnitude that I don't have yet. She has experience that I don't have yet. You know, I'm only in my first year or so of moving in the supernatural. I don't know it all. So I'm gleaming from anywhere I can glean from. Rejected. Why? Too young. The framework of familiarity. Remember, familiarity is most people's God. They're going to tell you it's Jesus. They're going to tell you it's something else, but familiarity is most people's God. They do what is familiar to them, and what's normal to them is what's familiar to them. Whatever is not familiar instantly becomes their enemy. So 14, 15, 16-year-olds moving in the supernatural is not familiar. I registered as an enemy. I never had a chance. This was the same thing, right? And I had to recognize she wasn't recognizing me as a person. That was an insecurity that bubbled up that people had. It takes time for people to process new information. All the stuff that I currently teach, I probably wouldn't have received it a decade ago. But that's how truth works. You usually don't receive something the first time it presents itself to you. It usually takes some time. You got to sit on it. You got to marinate. You got to meditate on it until it makes some sense, and then you receive it. It's no different with you. That you don't make sense to other people. So it takes them time. They're not rejecting you as you, they're figuring out what you are. And not just what you are, but what that means for them. They're measuring themselves about what they're able to discern in you. So in some cases, it's not that they don't want you to succeed, it's that your success in some cases reveals their complacency. It's not that they don't want you to be righteous, it's just that your purity reveals their contamination. Your authenticity reveals their, you get the point. They're not responding to you, so please, other forerunners, stop taking it personal. It reminds me of going back to the idea of inventors. You know, when the Wright brothers were first working on the plane, they were being told things like, that'll never work. That's not how it's supposed to be. Even the Christians of that day were like, no, if God wanted us in the air, God would have given us wings. It's actually an abomination for you to be off the ground like that. That's evil. That's wicked. This is demonic. Y'all are listening to fallen angels teaching y'all how to fly in the air, right? These are the complaints that the Wright brothers are getting. Why is that? Because it had never been done before. It had never been done in their lifetime, and they're dealing with they're fighting against the God of familiarity. Understand this, forerunners, your number one enemy is familiarity. The God, the idol that you have to dethrone at every step of your journey is familiarity. The place for you is always outside of the box. So going back to talking about the Wright brothers, right? So they go through all of that. They eventually succeed. Guess what? Because of that, now airplanes are so common, it's standard. That's just how we travel. That's just how we get along. That's how we get around. Not within driving distance, it's within flying distance. People go to sleep on planes. They're so trusted. We got protocols. We got food. We got kitchens. We got restrooms on them now. Right? It's standard. It's a part of everyday life, but it wasn't when it was being invented about 100 years ago. It wasn't standard then. It's standard now. That's what you're fighting for as a forerunner. You're fighting for what will be, not what is, which means your enemy is what is right now. What was standard for them then is that humans don't lift up off the ground. You don't travel that far and that fast. The best mode of transportation they had was trains. I think cars had barely gotten into operation. Correct me if I'm wrong. They didn't have planes yet. They start building planes. Okay, now you're challenging the status quo. You're challenging industries because now you're providing another option where there used to not be any. Oh, you have to recognize how you register in the world that you're trying to receive accolades from. You register as competition, even though you're just chasing your dreams. People see you, and I've had to tell people this. I'm like, my mandate has nothing to do with starting a church or doing anything in that world. Truthfully, y'all don't have to register me as an enemy because we're not in competition in the same field. And this might sound arrogant. I've told leaders this. I'm like, just be grateful we're not competing, because truthfully, you cannot compete. I'm not after your followers. I don't want your followers. I don't want the setup you got. You know, that's also another component, not wanting the same outcome. I've made a statement before that because I, as with everyone else, receive unsolicited advice all the time, and people can kind of feel when you receive or don't receive their advice, heed their warnings or whatever. And again, recognizing that most people are well-meaning, meaning there wasn't any malice in their advice or their attempt, right? Treat people a little gentle because they're not trying to do something wrong. It just doesn't match. So I've had to tell people that I'm playing a different game. I'm after something different. Don't give me the advice related to what you think I should be after. Look in the spirit and see what I'm after. And if you have advice for that, I'll take it. Because most people are under the assumption that if you're in ministry, you're looking to be the next big name, and I'm not. That if you're in ministry, you're looking to start a church and build a big following and a community and a culture. I'm not. That you're looking for places so that you can have speaking engagements. I'm not. That you're trying to attract more people. I'm not. If I was, most of the advice would fit. But since that's not my goal, none of it applies. So that's something in general, even for leaders, right? Recognize what people are called to before you try to give them advice. It helps you to not feel insecure when your advice isn't received because you know, oh, that doesn't work for you. It works for them, doesn't work for these two or those two. Right? In my experience, it's certain phrases that I've started to view as a bad omen. Because I started out young. I started out as a teenager. It's certain phrases that I started to view as bad just because they've never turned positive. Anytime an older minister is said, "Oh, you remind me of myself when I was your age. You're just like me. I know you." I know that we into some trouble. No one who's told me that has tried to do good things with that. And I'm going to leave it at that. Right? Similar, right? Because there are things about us as people that we recognize in each other. But when you start to deal with the callings of God on an individual, be a little careful about how quick you are to label in any capacity. I'm not even talking about good or evil, this or that. I'm just talking about what is their calling? What are they? What are they supposed to be used for? A bit too quick to label means that you'll start training someone in something they were never called to be in. So leaders, if you're going to try to be that important in people's life, do the bare minimum and seek the spirit about someone else's calling instead of trying to make everyone serve yours. You realize that Elohim has a purpose for every individual, and their purpose isn't just to be your slave, push your vision. Right. Part of your role as a mentor and as a leader is to help people become what they were meant to be. That's what makes Cave of Mystery, like my ministry, so different, is that I don't have anyone that work under me. I don't have assistants. I don't have servants. I have people I'm stewarding, people that I'm trying to help develop. That's about it. I got a bunch of people that need some help, but no, their job isn't to push my vision. It's my vision. That's why I'm pushing it. If they're pushing mine, they're not doing their own. So you have people sitting under ministries fighting, crazy, depressed, anxious, because they have a calling on the inside that they're not getting to steward because they're stewarding yours. That's failures of leadership that I never want to be a part of. Being responsible for someone else's lack of development because I told them that they were going to receive a heavenly reward if they denied their calling and helped me with mine. Oh, that's manipulative and that's witchcraft. Feel how y'all will about that. Other people matter more, right? Other people matter. Other people matter also. As anointed, as called, as supernatural, as powerful as I am, I know I'm not the most important or the only important person on the planet. Everybody I meet has a purpose. If they're choosing to walk in it, determines whether or not we get to walk together. But no, hey, call me what you will, but that's a bit too much for me. I'm not trying to get people just working up under me just to say, oh, look, I got these many people. Oh, I got this many people. I got somebody to come carry my Bible for me. This person's my driver. This person's my receptionist. I got a whole team doing stuff I could be doing just because it looks right. Yeah, no, no. I don't want that. So this gives you a bit more, like, it's certain things I don't want. Not just the things that I'm not called to do, but things that I don't want. I don't want a ministry. I don't want a life where I have to pretend I don't see evil in order to get big. I've died to wanting success if it meant I had to pretend I don't see injustice. I just won't have the success. I value being a safe place and a refuge too much to muzzle myself for popularity. I'm not playing a popularity game. I'm playing a magnitude game. I'm playing a performance game, right? I work on myself, even as it pertains to the supernatural, so that when I do miracles and I work healings and all these other things that we're all supposed to be doing, all of my testimonies are mine. You know, I don't have a team under me that I get to take on mission trips and then steal their testimonies and say I did it when they did it. I don't do that stuff. In fact, part of the reason I'm doing a healer course is so that y'all can learn how to do that stuff, so y'all can leave me alone. There's certain things I don't want. I'm not after the popularity. Yeah, popularity is cool, but to be honest, I care more about respect than popularity, and they're not one and the same. I know a lot of leaders who are popular but not respected. I'd rather be respected and not popular. Because that's something that I've heard just through my consistency, right? And here's something else I need you to understand as a forerunner. You don't have the same leeway as other people do. Because you're working in the unfamiliar, everyone is looking for your failure so they could discount your entire mission. You don't have room for error. Not because God doesn't forgive, but because people don't. People are still talking about Catherine Kuhlman's divorce that have done fractions upon fractions of fractions of the level of positive impact that she had on the planet. At some point, it's not relevant. We're still talking about King David's fault with Bathsheba as if the majority of us have anywhere near the level of faithfulness he had to his God. We're still talking about Mary Magdalene being a prostitute as if some of y'all are not predators in pulpits. It's a little bit crazy when you say it that way. You know, it's more about discrediting, because it's that whole crab in a bucket syndrome. Going somewhere the rest of us don't think we can, you register as an insult just for trying. You're trying to do what? No, we're all down here. That doesn't work. So you coming up saying, have you even tried? Oh, that doesn't register so well. I feel like I can do it. No, you can't. Yes, I might be. Let me try. They're hoping for your downfall because that then gives validation for their inactivity. Things that I was fighting that I didn't think I was fighting. I've told y'all this multiple times. I got in trouble by multiple Christians, multiple leaders, multiple elders when they found out that I read the whole Bible, all 66 books cover to cover, at least one time. I'm excited because they taught me my whole life that the Bible was God. And I said, well, the least I could do is be familiar with all the books, at least read the whole thing. Lo and behold, if I got more in trouble than I did get congratulated. Not that I did it for the congratulations, but expectations. I thought, considering how important y'all made this book to me, that I would be met with a positive response for taking y'all serious. I got yelled at in a different pastor's office. It was a pastor who called himself my spiritual father for a period of time. Never called me, never checked up on me. He saw me when he saw me. Didn't do a good job, but he called himself my spiritual father. And one day we're talking, and I let it slip that I read the whole Bible. I watched this man get mad. He start yelling. He like, it ain't supposed to be read that way. You're not supposed to do it that way. You're supposed to do it like this. I'm like, okay. That was the last time we talked, because yeah, man, you just crazy. You ain't got nothing to share with me. Right? When I started trying to learn how to heal the sick and cast out devils, right? Not that I was already doing it, but when I was learning it, I received a ton of backlash, not from my pastor, but just from people in the congregation, because that wasn't familiar to them at that time. Remember, the number one idol you tear down as a forerunner in any capacity is familiarity. Going outside of the norm will get you more in trouble than actually being a bad person will. That's why Christians are currently defending a pedophile. They'd rather do that than accept something different. So, in one level, it's I did something they never did. On another level, it's I did something that they never thought that was even possible. Right? So, how about this? And this is reflecting back on this as often as I have helped me get this. Almost everybody that told me not to seek God to learn how to heal the sick or cast out devils has come to me and received healing directly. Everybody but one person. And that's just because me and that person ain't never really been around each other since, right? Since I grew up. But almost everybody that told me not to became a patient once I could. That's how you know it's not personal. They're not responding to you. They're responding to what you represent on many levels. So in whatever area you're pioneering, continue to do that. Continue to do that. Whatever it is that you're called to do, led by the Spirit, right? Continue to press forward in that. That is your lifeline. Don't look for who supports you. Yes, it doesn't feel good all the time when certain people don't. When things aren't reciprocated by certain people, it feels some type of way. It's understandable. But eventually you'll recognize that it's more about what you represent and what you carry than it is about you as a person. I like that. He said they will try to take credit for something they had nothing to do with. They do that to y'all. That's part of the spiritual father, spiritual mother covering thing, is who gets to take credit for your success. That's what it is sometimes, because it's rarely actually about the accountability, even though that's what they say. I just want to make sure you're accountable. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't care nothing about that. No, you don't. Y'all just be saying stuff. If y'all cared about accountability, y'all would, I'm going to leave y'all alone, but let's just say actions would match. Anytime actions don't match, that's because they lying. If I say I love you and you never experienced that love from me, I must be lying. We just gonna leave it at that. So y'all, that's it. Right? So that's pretty much it for this session. That's really all I wanted to talk about. Again, I got 2 courses coming up this fall. Spiritual Warfare and Deliverance is 7 weeks. It's for free. Sign up on my website. And the Healer course, it's 8 weeks. Both of them help you to not be vulnerable, not to be helpless, right? Not to be powerless. If you're tired of feeling powerful or being, if you're tired of being powerless or feeling powerless when situations arise, right? Somebody gets sick, somebody in the hospital, somebody's hurt, you hurt yourself, you tired of being in the hospital. You're tired of things happening around you and you can do nothing about it. Both of these classes are for you. I'm teaching you the same methods I use to get the results I've had. Right? I had a leader one day. He thought he was dropping a bomb on me. We were talking in private. He'd invited me to his house. We were talking. And he said, well, you know where God is because of the fruit. I'm like, what you mean by that? He says, well, my ministry has tens of thousands of healings. And I'm like, what are you getting at? He's in his own way. He's like, yours don't. I'm like, I have the same level of healings in you and I do them by myself. You have a team. Y'all have tens of thousands. I have tens of thousands. You work with a team. I work by myself. I'm saying that not just to tell y'all the story of some disrespect, but to tell y'all about the magnitude of what I've been able to accomplish and understand. Because I understand it, I can teach it and you can see those same results. I've been healing the sick since I was in high school. You tired of being powerless when stuff happens? Take the class. Also, again, my book, Fullness, Guide to Sonship and Mysticism. If you don't have it already, it's available in paperback, ebook, audiobook. You can order it off of Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or you can get the ebook specifically from my website. As with everything, caveofmystery.org. You can find everything I got there. Upcoming courses, my shop, my books, anointing oil, my Patreon that has all my teachings on it. Booking information, everything related to me is on my website. That's caveofmystery.org. And y'all, that's it. I love y'all. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Later.